From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive, recorded Saturday, 10 November 2012, episode 41, For God and Country. Well, welcome once again to another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and I'm not here with Robert Garza. For those who might have been catching the episode last week, you picked up on the fact that ScubaBob, my venerable host, co-host, is away at a retreat, a church retreat. His wife went to one, and then he's going to one, then they will be going to one together as a couple. I couldn't be happier for him being able to go to something like this because, quite frankly, that's a great opportunity for somebody to be with other God-fearing men. It helps build up your own character, give you support in a day in a society that definitely challenges folks who really are intent on making marriage work. Especially in the Christian arenas, because we have so much of society that basically wants to tear it down and diminish what a relationship is all about. So I know he's going to have a good time. He's probably not watching this now. Hopefully he's not watching this now. But he'll catch it up on YouTube. But a lot of these retreats, they do different things where some role-playing, some instruction, some soul-searching, sharing of some things about yourself. There's a kind of accountability that you get to partake in these kinds of retreats that can be a bit challenging as well as cathartic because, as any guy will tell you, and really I think as any woman will tell you, there are some things that they don't typically talk about with their spouses, but they will talk about with others of their own gender, especially if they feel that they're in an arena that makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel safe to share those things. There are reasons why guys have a few really, really close guy friends and girls have really, really close girlfriends, so they can share these things and talk in a way that they might not talk to their spouse. Things that they're concerned with, things that they just don't understand, or really, quite frankly, also things they kind of want to brag about. So, and that's all well and good. There's a level of appropriateness, obviously, that you don't want to share things, air dirty laundry, that kind of thing, because that just creates an uncomfortable situation. Although, obviously, in a world of Facebook and Twitter, we share so many things that probably aren't appropriate because we aren't held accountable, I guess, for it. But in the environment of like a Christian retreat, it's a safe environment generally. You do still have to be careful a little bit, but these kinds of events are specifically geared to really help individuals that are in a relationship, in marriage, as well as help the couple. My wife and I have been to those kinds of things, especially as couples, and we've just had a blast fellowshipping with other couples, and it just builds the relationship stronger, and it kind of makes you even more into a team. Because in this world, you definitely need that teamwork of a husband and wife to step forward to handle the things that are going on. So, ScubaBob, proud of you. Hope you have a great time. I know you will. I know you are. Looking forward to having you share with everybody what you feel comfortable sharing. Next week on the podcast, I think you'll have some interesting stories to tell. And I had a little surprise for you, so you may have already run into that. We'll see. So Scuba Bob's having a great time at his retreat. Uh, for those of you who don't know, this is the 237th birthday for the United States Marine Corps. So, I'm an Air Force guy. I spent 9 years active duty. Loved it. Unfortunately, I would have stayed in for the full, till retirement, full 20 or whatever it is now. If it weren't for the fact that the Air Force was changing quite a bit from the Air Force that I joined back in 1983. It seems like so long ago, and yet it seems like yesterday because there's so many memories that I have of that time. And it definitely had a part to play in forming the way I am now. It's given me an understanding of course, obviously the aspects of being in the military, defending the Constitution, defending our country, knowing what that there's a responsibility, there's a level of responsibility, and Air Force talks about its core values, etc., and all of the services have their own. The Marines have a particularly difficult job ahead of them because, all jokes aside, those guys and girls are truly putting themselves right there in the middle of it, right there between you and whatever's coming at you, whatever wants to take on this nation. They're usually the first ones on the beach, in the whatever the hot spots are. And so realizing that they got their start back in 1775 is amazing. They were part of the first group that defended this country when we were breaking out on our own, when we had to stand up as a fledgling set of colonies. By the way, Mr. President, the United States was never a colony. Yeah, we were colonies. And then we eventually became the United States. So check your history, Mr. College graduate. But even back then, to be able to stand up to what was then one of the greatest powers in the world was a feat that only God could have been a part of. And the fact that we had many brave men who stepped forward to being outnumbered, outgunned, but still standing for really what this nation was about to become, what this fledgling group of colonies would turn into. And here we are, still, with all of our problems, we're still the greatest nation on earth, the greatest nation that's ever been. And so congratulations to all my Marine friends out there. You're part of an organization that you very well should be proud of. So congratulations on 237th birthday for the United States Marine Corps. Okay, a little bit of technical news about last week. If you were watching live, we had about 10 minutes left of the podcast. And all of a sudden we heard this beep in the studio, and the lights blinked for just a moment, and then suddenly the main computer that is in front of me here rebooted. For some reason, we saw, I guess I should have saw it was coming. Earlier in the day, looked off to the north of us and saw some pretty good thunderheads building up. And of course, I thought, well, those would be perfect for storms, which we badly need in Del Rio. We've been without significant rain for a while, and our lake just needs to come up. It was just saddening going out there diving the weekend before and realizing how absolutely horribly low the lake is. But so I saw these thunderheads coming up, And I thought those would drop some serious rain on us. Except we have this dome over Del Rio. We call it the dome, where storms come in from the west or in from the north, and it's like they hit this invisible barrier around the city, and then split apart, going north and south of us, and then they come back together on the other side, and then hit the little town of Brackaville about 30 miles away from us, and then they get some pretty good storms, and we get maybe some wind, but basically butkus. So I watched this coming. I thought, wow, that would be great if we get some rain, but we probably won't. So fast forward to the evening where we're doing the podcast, and I noticed we were getting a pretty good light show outside. But again, because we have the dome, I never thought it would affect us at all. Well, stupid me. Sure enough, it did, but it shouldn't have affected the podcast. Unfortunately, the UPS, the battery backup that I have on the server here, or on the computer here, wasn't working correctly. It's about 3 years old, and we don't get a lot of power outages, at least that I'm aware of. And so I didn't think that it was wearing out, but apparently it was, because it didn't even hold up the machine at all. So as it turns out, I ended up the next day having to go out to local Walmart and purchasing a brand new UPS for it. So it's working now. So if we have a storm, which doesn't look like we have any kind of weather in the Del Rio area at all, but in case we do, we do have battery backup to to cover things if things go south. So there we go. Get a little bit of focusing here. So apologize for those who might have seen us get interrupted. Now, after about 5 minutes, I was able to get everything back up and running, and we did, in fact, finish the show. We had about 10 minutes left of material that we were going to go over, which we went ahead and accomplished. Unfortunately, for those of you who are tech savvy and know about what happens with media as you're recording, losing power in the middle of it, not a good thing. So the software I'm using, XSplit, XSPLIT, typically records in either Flash, which I hate, or MP4, which I love. Either way, if you're recording a media file, audio or video, and it doesn't get a good end of file, doesn't get closed properly, then it basically is a big corrupted file that takes up drive space. So when we lost power, it crashed, and so I had this 169 megabyte file sitting there that could not be read by anything. And believe me, I scoured the internet looking for any kind of software that would have any possible chance of repairing the file, putting a good end of file marker, because then I tried to bring it into regular like Movie Maker and Nero and a number of other video programs, trying to somehow resurrect it, write an end of file to it, and tack on the last 10 minutes of the show, and I would just put that together, saved it, and uploaded it to YouTube. So if you went looking on YouTube for episode 40, you will not find it, and that's the reason. We lost power, and it corrupted the media file as it was recording. So we have other than the last 10 minutes, we have nothing actually recorded. So if you either saw it live or you didn't see it at all. So apologies for the technical difficulties last week. We shouldn't have those happen again. So having said that, speaking of more tech news, anyone who knows me knows I love the Windows Phone devices. I've got the Lumia 900. It is a gorgeous unit. I love it. I love the Windows Phone ecosystem. It works smartly. It feeds me information without actually having to execute programs. It's just awesome. I love the operating system. But Nokia, who has really kind of stepped out as the flagship designer. I mean, the uniqueness of the unibody polycarbonate casing of these phones coming in multiple colors really stands out from the sea of black and silver or white and silver hardware that's out there, all the plasticky looking stuff, including the iPhones. I'm sorry, they just look boring and plain. Nokia has been a company to stand out in the design. For the first, really the first two generations of Windows phones, what you really saw was Samsung and HTC and all the other OEMs really just rebranding their Android phones, taking the same hardware, making a few tweaks to make it fit what Microsoft set for their standards for the hardware. And those were the phones that came out with the Windows Phone OS on them. And some for better or worse. There were some enhancements they could do, but not tremendous amounts. So Nokia was kind of unique. Well, now we enter into the Windows Phone 8 era, where, and again, this is probably getting way into the weeds for a lot of folks, but Windows Phone 7 was still based on the old WinCE kernel, which goes way back to the old Pocket PC and Windows Mobile device days, which I actually had a Pocket PC and actually a couple of different Pocket PC and Windows Mobile PDAs before they became Windows Mobile phones. And I loved them, but there were some certain things about them. And Microsoft kind of just basically sat on their laurels and didn't do anything past those initial designs. And so Apple was able to come up with really maximize the potential of a touchscreen and took off with it. And so Microsoft's been playing catch up all this time with it, with the smartphone arena. And that's fine. They've had plenty of money, etc., to kind of wade into this. And they've still been making mistakes in the way they approach it. But largely, I think they have such a unique operating system now with so many advantages that are just get away from the tired sea of tiles or the chaos in the Android ecosystem. That I think it's an attractive alternative. But there were a lot of limitations in the Windows Phone 7 because it was still holding on to the old kernel. Well, enter Windows Phone 8 here in the last couple of months, and it's, even though on the face of it, it looks a lot of the same, if you're used to Windows Phone 7, you have no problem with the Windows Phone 8. It's the same feel, same experience, which is what they were going for. But underneath, the engine of it is really based more on the Windows 8, the Windows 8 RT type kernel. So that starts to unify the platforms, which is exactly where they're going. And I think now that Apple and Android are trying to go the same way, they're realizing, you know what, there's a potential market here. We could lose our edges if we don't start thinking about pulling them together. So of course, there were announcements on the 29th for the new phones coming out. And they showed off some of the early developer versions. And so now, as of Friday the 9th, AT&T was releasing their gamut of Windows phones. So let me bring this up. Here we go. So this is from WPCentral.com, one of the websites that I frequent a lot to get the latest in news and information, and also get into arguments with people over smartphones, particularly Windows Phone. So you can see here's the initial lineup of the Windows Phone 8. There are a lot of others that are coming down the pike, but these are the big ones standing out. And I think what I find most striking on the face of looking at these is how unique now the first batch of Windows Phone 8 devices are compared to everything else. If you look from left to right here, you have the Samsung Ativ S, you have the HTC 8X, then you have the Lumia 920, the looks like the HTC 8S, and then the Lumia 820. So the of the HTC line, the 8X is the higher end version, and the 8S has got a little bit less memory, etc. to it. Then the same thing for Nokia. You've got their 920, which is their flagship, and then the 820, which has some other good features to it that the 920 doesn't have. But then there are other features that aren't quite as on top of or on the edge as the 920. And then you have, of course, the largest of them all. You have the Samsung. Now, Samsung is now the #1 hardware maker for smartphones. They have really done a good job with ramping up their hardware, as well as kicking out a ton of lower end hardware that just gets people into the smartphone market, typically with Android phones, gets them in the ballpark quickly. You know, if you've been in the feature phone, the flip phone world for a long time, then you're looking to get into the smartphone world for the first time. The Android devices make it very, very inexpensive to, relatively inexpensive to do so. So, but if you notice something different about, or something about the Ativ, is it still looks like the typical phone. I mean, this looks a lot like the Galaxy S3, and so there's still a little bit of rebranding going on by Samsung, but you know they're wiping up the floor now. The Galaxy S3 is actually wiping up the floor with the iPhone, which kind of surprised me in some aspects, but it's the best-selling phone. Period. iPhone doesn't touch it. And so HTC, which has been really, really hurting as a company for a while, because they've been coming up with basically garbage devices, and Nokia, which has really been pushing good hardware, but just hasn't grabbed the market as well. They've easily grabbed the market. Nokia has easily grabbed the Windows Phone market. They are the best seller, but I have to say the HTC 8X will probably give it a run for money. As you can see here, they've got colors. They're working on pretty much the unibody kind of concept, and based on current reports, the camera on there is pretty decent. While the fact is the Lumia 920 truly just has the best camera out there. They've taken advantage of rolling in portions of the PureView camera capability that they have into the 920, and it's just awesome. That is not in the 820, however. Although it does have a good camera, it's better than even the Lumia 900 that I have, but it's not the top of the line camera. The big thing is, it really comes down to, for me, storage. The 8X only comes in either a 8 or 16 gigabyte version, whereas the 920 comes in a 32 gigabyte, which was one of the big things for me when I had with the current phone that I have, which is the Lumia 900. It's only got 16 gigabytes, and while I am a big fan of using the cloud, I can encourage you more to start getting comfortable with the cloud, with having your data stored securely in the internet storage service that are typically referred to by the cloud. And everybody has their own kind. Apple has theirs. Google has theirs. Microsoft has theirs. They call it the SkyDrive. There are a bunch of you who just get all worried and freaked out because you don't feel it's secure. Well, it's about as secure as anything else. If your machine is connected to the internet, chances are your machine is the least secure link in the chain, because most of you don't maintain firewalls, don't maintain antivirus, you don't set your machine up to patch regularly. And this is actually true, even true now of the Android, the Chrome type tablet or computers, as well as Apple. As a matter of fact, if you were watching last week, you saw us talking about how Microsoft is no longer in the top 10 of vulnerabilities as far as computers out there. Apple, Oracle, and Sun, who has Java, or pardon me, Adobe, who has Flash, etc. They are the most insecure. So really what we're finding out is Microsoft has been doing such a good job with Windows 7 and now with Windows 8 of securing the system from design rather than after the fact, that the folks who've been writing Trojan and virus programs to hack machines have realized, you know what, this is getting harder to do. Let's go after somebody who hasn't been paying attention to it for a while, and that one of those has been Apple, unfortunately. Apple kind of got shielded by the fact that they had such a tiny market share with their computers that who cared? Who wanted to attack them? Because there was no fun in it. Whereas if you can attack a bunch of Windows computers, you've got a robot army that's under your control, working your will, whatever you wanted the programs to do. Not the least of which, of course, was obtaining passwords and accounts and privacy data, so PII, so you could engage in identity theft, etc. But just script kiddies, those little idiots who have no brain anyway. All they want to do is just have bragging rights for destroying machines. So the shift has gone over to Apple now for focus. But anyway, what we see now is that people just didn't pay attention to that stuff, and now it's a much more secure system. It works better. It works much more smoothly, and it has advantage of the now with the Windows, the Metro. I'm going to still call it Metro. I don't care who calls it Modern UI or Windows 8 Store UI or what, Windows 8 Experience, whatever. It's still Metro. So anyway, that Metro interface, which is where it's all going. You might as well get used to your desktop eventually going away. Those are going to be more secure, just as the iPad is typically more secure because of the way those apps work. So anyway, Windows 8 has been doing really well, and so trying to take advantage of that new interface, that Metro interface with Windows Phone. We have the Windows Phone 8 devices that are really, really stepping up to take a shot at the top two there. It's a daunting task. I mean, nobody's gonna put blinders on and say, oh well, Windows Phone is gonna take the lead, and they've had some missteps. They're gonna continue to have missteps. Apple ain't all that anymore. There have been additional problems show up now with the iPhone 5. Of course, there were a lot of people complaining about glitches in iOS 6, as well as the maps they just sucked. I mean, come on, they were horrible. They should have stuck with the Google Maps because those are established. They work really well. Google spent tons of money keeping that up, and Apple was trying to push their own thing. They wanted to kick Google out the door, so it was just all Apple all the time, not realizing there's value in strategic partnerships in this. This is the way that Microsoft works. They've got strategic partnerships that it's enabled them to stay significant in the market. So Apple kicked Google out the door, created crappy maps, and so a lot of people hated that. They've been making improvements. I noticed yet another update came out today because my wife has an iPhone 4, so she got that updated today. And some various hardware, quality control issues because they were trying to rush it out the door. Competition is a great thing, but it sometimes pushes companies to not fully bake their designs, not fully bake their OS, etc. And so they kick it out the door a little early. So And then now we're seeing reports that there's issues with the touchscreen where, especially in the upper right corner, I guess it doesn't work properly. There's lag, or it create it in some cases, depending on the software the app you're using. I've seen a number of reports where it actually causes the iPhone 5 to freeze, and you have to restart it. So they still have some work to do, obviously, to get that up to snuff. And I'm sure there's going to be more versions coming out that add some of the features that Android has been adding into their device to supporting in their devices, as well as the stuff that's coming out with the Windows phones. Speaking of the Lumia 920, those went on pre-order on the 9th. No, on the 7th. And so I was ready at 12:01 online, ready to order. And by the time I went through all the process and clicked on this and answered that, blah, 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 made sure the shipping address was correct, it was 12:05 when I clicked order. So I thought, okay, great. I'm one of the first ones that will receive theirs. And it said on the website, delivered, order now, it'll be delivered on the 9th. So I'm like, woo, even in Del Rio, they can do the second day. It was supposed to be second day. And it'll get here. Because we do have FedEx that actually flies in and out of here. Well, so I'm watching online for status, checking for a tracking number, and the 7th turns into the 8th, and it's still processing. No, so finally, in the afternoon of the 8th, they show it shipping. And it's picked up, it's at Memphis, so then it goes to Memphis and stays in Memphis until in the wee hours of, or the late hours of the 9th. And then finally shipped out on the 10th. I'm like, wait a minute, what's the deal here? So now it sits in San Antonio, Texas, and which is a distribution, or what do they call it, a sorting facility. So it should have actually arrived on the 9th, and worst case, it should have arrived at our local FedEx facility today sometime, or in the morning, so that even though their driver wouldn't pick it up and deliver it, that I should have been able to go into the store and just pick it up. Well, no, it's still sitting in San Antonio. So it looks like I won't get it until Monday, which is a real pain. I was hoping to be able to do a little first unboxing here on the podcast, but it was not to be. So I'll have to wait until Monday. So fortunately, Monday is a holiday, Veterans Day, woo, and I've got the whole week off, as a matter of fact, because I've built up tons of leave, tons of vacation time. I just don't take a lot of vacation. Vacations for me are typically used, my wife and I will go on our dive trips. That's our big thing. But, you do that for a week. A 7-day trip is typically what we go on. The rest of the time, I can dive anytime. I've got a decent lake out here to go diving, Lake Amistad. And so, I just load up the trailer, or worst case, if I'm just, if I don't want to drag the whole trailer out there, I just throw my gear in the back of the Mustang and go out there, pick a spot, and hit the water so I can get a dive in. So I can dive and relax any weekend. So I just don't take a lot of leave, a lot of vacation. So it builds up. And the way we do it in the Air Force is you get X number of hours or X number of days a year, and you can only hold on to so many of those across the fiscal year or the calendar year. And anything above this amount, you lose it. So that's why we call, as you get to the end of the year, what we call it use or lose. You have X number of days of use or lose. Well, I had 156 hours of use or lose leave, which is not uncommon for me at all. Meanwhile, I ran into people that are always, they use as soon as they build up any leave, any vacation, they use it. I just think that makes no sense. I actually should use it more than I do, but I don't see the sense in using all of it up. And so where I'm just hoping to build up enough for the next day I want to take off. So so I've got a lot of leave to burn off. So I will get the whole week to play with my new Nokia Lumia 920, which I did get. I did order in the cyan. So I want to keep the colors because once I eventually get my Microsoft Surface, I will be going with the cyan touch cover for that. Which, speaking of that, let's segue into a little issue there. Never let it be said that I am not fair. When Microsoft blows it, I have no problem telling them so because I think that's the only way that they get better. In my opinion, the iSheep, there's nothing that Apple can do wrong. And those people are just crazy for not calling Apple out on their products and just finally getting frustrated that, you know what, throwing money at them is not the answer. But Microsoft evidently has some quality control issues of their own with the touch cover for the Surface. Evidently, the touch cover has an issue where the material is separating where the hinges are. The way the touch cover attaches to the Surface is it uses magnets that make the physical connection as well as the mechanical connection, the electronic connection. And part of the material, which is all kind of one piece, if you can imagine, if you have a vinyl notebook or some kind where you're opening and closing it a lot, and eventually that vinyl starts to break or separate, that evidently is what is happening with quite a few of the covers. So, and of course, Microsoft acknowledges it. They will replace it for free if you have an issue. So they're probably going to have to go back a little bit to the drawing board with that, or at least find out what the quality control issue is from the actual manufacturer that's assembling these for them. I think it's important because people like me are going to absolutely be going for the Surface. I'm waiting for the Surface Pro, but I want the touch cover. I want it as thin as possible. I'm not interested, and I like the color. It's just color. The type cover, which actually has the tactile response on the keys, is a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, and it's all black. They don't come in other colors. I think that's a mistake, but and they may change that later, but we'll see. So that's why I want the touch cover. So they need to get that right because I will be an unhappy camper about that. So, okay. I think that takes care of at least our initial tech news. So, again, this is it's an important weekend coming up. This is Veterans Day weekend. I normally participate. I have been regularly asked by the folks at the city of Del Rio to participate in the Memorial Day and the Veterans Day ceremonies that we do at the Civic Center here. And I'm proud to do so. I'm humbled to be asked. How do I participate, you ask? I sing the national anthem for these events. I do that a lot, actually, both on the Air Force Base here as well as around town. I'm honored to do so. I think it's a God-given gift, and I need to use it. So that God gets the glory, not me. I've had my share of glory with bands and stuff like that. The Air Force Tops of Blue, etc. Great experiences, all, but it pales in comparison to doing things that just really are honorable to God. So this year, unless something changes to the last second, it's no different. So I'll be participating on that. It'll make my Sunday morning very busy because if you follow the podcast regularly, you know that I'm also the praise and worship leader at our church, Grace Community Church, if you're interested, and in the local area. And so our services start at 10. Well, the ceremony for the city always starts at 11 a.m. So needless to say, I will be making a beeline after praise and worship finishes to head over to the Civic Center to get ready to play my part in the Veterans Day ceremonies. So it's going to be very, very busy. I hope it's well attended. It's moderately been increasing over the years, but it's a shame to me that people don't support our ceremonies that honor our vets and our active duty people. I am a fiercely patriotic person. I am conservative. I am quite familiar with the U.S. Constitution. I have read the Federalist Papers, and so I am a big fan of wallbuilders.com or .org, I think it is. I'm a big fan of Wall Builders. There's great history, understanding how this country was formed, the mindset of our founding fathers, and what they really believed, what they understood, what they were fearful of as far as where the government would go, and what it was going to take to both build this nation and defend this nation. And so that's why we do have such great military in this country. And while we have by far the greatest power, we don't wield it carelessly, contrary to what political pundits on either side of the aisle would say. We're not frivolous with it. We have our mistakes. We have made bad decisions before, but ultimately those men and women who serve, who volunteer to serve, as it is the custom now, they are putting their lives on the line when they go out there, when they are put in harm's way, when they are in the thick of things, when anything can spark an attack on our people, on our country. We live in a very dangerous world. We enjoy diving, we enjoy all the tech stuff. We have a great time if you've seen the podcast before. But we understand that there are people standing in the gap for us that give us that comfort, that comfort level, that freedom, the ability to have fun, to be able to go out and scuba dive and not worry about somebody attacking us next week, tomorrow, somebody, taking us over. There was a movie back in the 80s called Red Dawn, which is the remake for it is going to be released Thanksgiving, by the way. I will be watching. That movie has been ready for 2 years. And it was because of the political climate and the fact that this version is about China and Korea. Very timely. Just as the original one was very timely because it was all about Russia and Cuba. This one is very timely as well. And we have to be aware. But something like that is not outside the realm of possibility. So it is great to know that we have men and women who are volunteering to stay up in the wee hours, to be out in the cold and the heat, to put their lives on the line, to protect us from the crazy people that are out there, the nut jobs that hate this country just because it exists, that hate us because we believe in God, hate us because we stand still, in spite of the current administration, we stand firmly with Israel, and they hate us for that. And they get no greater joy than to martyr themselves trying to defeat us. And so we have people standing in the gap. So very proud to be a veteran myself. Very proud of the people who are stepping forward even today to protect us. So what happens when they're injured, when they're disabled because they have driven over an IED, or they're ambushed, or we see a lot of these what they call it, green on blue attacks, where folks that we're supposed to be helping are being infiltrated and then shooting us. It's a tough thing. You may have heard of, hopefully you've heard of the Wounded Warrior program, and it's actually grown quite big, a worthwhile program to support. Well, there are a number of avenues that that program, Wounded Warrior program, has for helping out disabled vets in the recovery process. When you lose a limb, when you are less, when you are made physically less than your former self because you have because of your service, there are a number of things that are tough to come back from. Not the least of which is all the physical therapy that you have to go through to relearn how to be motive, to interact with this world. Because let's face it, with all the advances of technology and of mankind, we still are a world that's focused on that is focused on those who are fully ambulatory, fully have all senses working, are able to see, are able to hear, are able to talk, able to walk, able to type. So it's amazing that a group like, an organization like Wounded Warrior Program has a number of different tendrils that are involved in a number of different things to help improve the lives, help the recovery process for our vets that are wounded. And one of those organizations that is affiliated with the Wounded Warrior Program is called Task Force Dagger, the Task Force Dagger Foundation. Here we got the website up. If you go to taskforcedagger.org, you can see what this is about. There's a number of areas that they deal with, but one of the things that is pertinent to this show, as a matter of fact, is they have a very active scuba diving curriculum or program, if you will. Says here that the foundation sponsors a number of recreational therapy events. Events are designed to help the families heal, learn a new skill, which is the case of scuba. On the website here it says, one might ask, how does scuba help a family heal? The answer is not simple, but nothing in life is simple. Healing is a process and takes time, but what scuba does is give a family an activity that they can do together, and it can be as easy or as strenuous as they like. So they go on trips. There is the equipment that is being designed these days to work with current prosthetics, as well as newly designed prosthetics for disabled vets. Disabled of any, not just from being in the military, but any number of things. But the equipment that's coming out now supporting these folks is absolutely remarkable. And the companies that are designing their own equipment, either to support the programs directly in the form of these new prosthetics or new types of wetsuits, mask fins, snorkel, all these things that we take for granted as fully abled divers, or they design specific equipment that you can buy so that the money from it goes toward organizations like Task Force Dagger. One of those such organizations, one of those companies, is one that you've heard us talk about on this show quite a bit, and that's Oceanic. And they have just an awesome, operation as far as Oceanic Worldwide. Of course, we love their computers, we love their wetsuits, their accessories, we love their equipment. But Oceanic actually has a line of product that they've created. You see here in the website, red, white, and blue accents, etc. That they take a large portions of the money from these products that they donate for Task Force Dagger, and it's amazing. When you see some videos, you can actually go down YouTube and see a number of videos of Wounded Warriors enjoying a sport that, of course, we here on the podcast love, um, in ways that they never probably would have thought they could. The beauty of it is, when you're in the water, you have it's an equalizer of sorts because you're weightless. So the challenges of not being able to fully support yourself because you're paraplegic or even quadriplegic, those differences, those influences they're not eliminated. You can never completely mask that effect, obviously, but they are severely diminished. And so you see some amazing people overcoming an amazing disadvantage through the help of technology and caring people who are teaching them how to enjoy a great sport. Now, another affiliation to the Wounded Warrior program is the Soldiers Undertaking Disabled Scuba, or SUDS. And and again, if you go to sudsdiving.org, you can see more about this. It's an amazing program. You can see some of the videos and pictures of some of these wounded warriors who have taken advantage of this program, this organization, to experience the world of diving. It's amazing, again, to see them doing things that, in many cases, they never would have done before they got injured. You know, I know so many people who are perfectly healthy, great shape. No, I'll never go diving. No, just don't see that it'd be fun, blah, blah, blah. They come up with all sorts of reasons. But you see that they suddenly find that they can step out and enjoy this sport, even though they're missing an arm or a leg or whatever, because it shows them that they can overcome something that they didn't think they could overcome before when they were whole. And it's just amazing to see them overcome that. As an instructor, I see a lot of I see students learning to overcome their fears, their biases or prejudgment of scuba diving, thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to do this," and they're perfectly good shape, and then they finally get to the end of the program and they do such a great job and they're certified and they go out to dive, and it's exciting to see them adding yet another facet to their life that they didn't have before. So if you find yourself wanting to help out wounded warriors in some way, there are tons of ways. You can go to the Wounded Warriors website and see a number of ways to interact with them. But I definitely encourage you to if you're a scuba diver, to get involved in some of these programs. At the very least, you could just buy some of the Ocean Warrior products to help support it and kind of show that you are behind some great activities, some great programs that help our wounded warriors. Or you can certainly donate to or get involved with, if you have like a local chapter of one of the SUDS organization affiliates or Task Force Dagger Foundation affiliates. You can get involved directly that way. Certainly worthwhile. You're going to help some people out. You can expand their world and feel a little bit better about yourself, about your day, because you stepped out and did something kind of unique for folks. So we definitely encourage that. So that's Task Force Dagger. Check out the Oceanic Warrior Program and SUDS, Soldiers Undertaking Disabled Scuba. We're just about to the end of the program here, but since it's just me, I'm going to step into some waters that I kind of stepped into before, but we typically don't make a point of it here. But I own the podcast, so I'm going to take advantage of it. Uh, we had our latest election this past week. To say that I'm disappointed in the outcome would be an understatement. Uh, as I've said before, I'm a conservative person. I believe in the Constitution. I don't believe that it was designed to. It was designed to be able to be altered by the people, but in an orderly fashion. I do not take kindly to people who decide that our Constitution can be changed simply by imagining that it says something that it doesn't. We have three branches of government, if you actually listened in school, or if they even teach this anymore. The executive, legislative, and judicial branches. And unfortunately, over the last few generations, our judicial branch, which is just as political as the legislative and executive branches, have made what I find to be very, very bad decisions that they say are established in the Constitution, but I completely disagree. I think they've been rewriting what the Constitution says, especially if you actually study such things as the Federalist Papers. And I encourage most of you to do so. A lot of you won't even get it. There are versions of the Federalist Papers that actually do seek to rewrite them in modern language, because a lot of it is written in the early English, the colonial English of the time, and so there are words and phrases that are not common today, and it can be difficult to read some of these. But it would give you a better insight as to exactly how the Constitution was being written, and also what the mindset about our government was. I'm sorry, folks, but this would be a not suitable for liberals episode, but I'm sorry, but the design of our government was such that our founding fathers feared a strong central government. They feared a strong federal level, exactly because of how Great Britain was. That was their model to be feared. So what they designed was to give the states more power. And so the role of the federal government, as it says in the Constitution, is specific, enumerated rights. Everything else was left to the states or the people. That's how it's phrased. And yet somehow, over the generations, we've decided that the role of the federal government is completely overrunning that of the states, to the point where we have developed I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe it, a taker and a producer society. We have moved away from capitalism to socialism. And there are many of you out there that totally don't get this. You don't understand what socialism is, or you do and you totally embrace it. You think the European model is smart. You think that it's great that everything that's produced is taken up by the federal government and then redistributed. Unfortunately, many of you are not old enough to remember the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which is the USSR, formerly what Russia was the central country for. That was a socialist country moving towards communism, and the benchmark, the cornerstone of their philosophy was from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. Now, that sounds all well and good. That sounds all nice and safe. Unfortunately, that's wrong, because there is no way you can sustain that. There is no reason for people to produce if they don't get the benefits of what they produce. There's no reason for people to produce, to reach their highest level of excellence if they don't get to reap the benefits of those. Now, the fact is, our Declaration of Independence states that there are certain truths that are self-evident, and that we have certain inalienable rights. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, unfortunately, the liberal mindset that has clearly taken over this country, more than 50% of this country believes to some degree in the liberal tenets, the socialist and the, what I'm going to call ungodly tenets, that actually profanes that concept. If one of our inalienable rights, God-given rights, is life, we seem to have been moving towards a society that treats life as garbage. That's the abortion issue. I'm sorry, there's no way you can get around it. As soon as two people begin the process of creation, as soon as there's fertilization, that is life. It can't be a fish, can't be a goat, can't be a dog. It's a human being. It's human life, and yet we're going to throw it out with the bathwater. I urge you who do not believe this to go see the movie October Baby. You can rent it, catch it on Netflix, I think. October Baby would hopefully, unless you are completely heartless, should give you a new perspective on this. Then there's liberty. Well, when you are forcing people to do things to, for instance, pay for health care when they don't want to, just because they exist, otherwise you're going to penalize them, that's not liberty. When you're going to engage thought police, that's not freedom. And then there's the pursuit of happiness. Notice they didn't say happiness. They said the pursuit of happiness, which means in this nation, you should be not hobbled by government or other people in your pursuit of happiness. In other words, you should be able to, whatever your skill is, whatever your ambition is, you should be able to capitalize on that, be as successful as you want to, so that you're happy. And yet, we've somehow twisted that into think that you are entitled to all sorts of things. You're entitled to nothing. This country does not entitle you to a house, a car, anything. It entitles you to the opportunity to pursue those things, and yet we want to hand those to people. Now, a number of my liberal associates would immediately start to argue, well, how about the people who are disadvantaged, blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, you and I have totally very different ideas on what disadvantage is. But the bottom line is, this is where the church and the community were supposed to step in. It's been a fault, in my opinion, of the church that stepped out of the way that's taken the back seat, and so something had to fill that void. So what was left? We were left with the progressive movement that felt guilty about not taking care of their elderly parents, not taking care of the widow and the orphan, but didn't want to shoulder the specific responsibility themselves. And so, as a result, created a program or a series of programs and left it and forced everybody to participate in this scam. You're best able to help those in need when you know them, when you know their situation. There are a lot of people who simply take advantage of the system and the process because they can. Because you can't operate something. The federal government does almost nothing well. It is too big, it is too slow, and it is too wasteful. The federal government, even the state governments, cannot do very much well at all. Which is why our founding fathers designed the governments to be subject to the people, to be as limited as possible, because they understood even then that A, they couldn't do it worth a darn, and B, if you give them all power, they will exercise that power with absolution over people. And that's exactly where we're going. So it's been very disheartening to me to see that so many people, literally, you can look all over the internet, you can look over the news, and you see people absolutely dumbfounded, ignorant, and stopped in their tracks because they're waiting for their next handout. I felt bad for all these people that were affected by Hurricane Sandy, except when I saw them practically begging at the feet of governors and president and mayors, where's FEMA? Where's my food and my clothing and my house? Where's your community? Where are your people that live around you that can help band together and help you out? Where are those people? Where is the church? That's who you should be going to. That's who should be coming to you, not the government. It doesn't do anything right. It is a behemoth that will absolutely wield all power. So it's no surprise to me that after the election, such things as gun purchases and gold purchases and that kind of thing has skyrocketed, because all of the freedoms that we have that are in the Constitution, they're threatened. And if you think they're not, you're deluding yourself, and I'm sorry that you're that blind to it. But the things that we're able to enjoy now are going to become less and less available to us, because this model that we're moving toward doesn't raise all boats. It lowers all boats. It reduces everybody's ability. Because I promise you, watch the movies, read the book, read the book by Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. Or at least watch part 1 and part 2 of the movies. There's going to be a third one that comes out later. It shows you exactly where this is going. And as more people rely on those who are producing to be handed their welfare, to be handed their Social Security, to be handed their health care, those that produce are going to get to a point where there are fewer and fewer and fewer, and they're going to have to be asked to be paid more and more of their fair share. Well, I'm sorry. Asking them to pay a bit more is not their fair share. They already pay more than anybody else. So the people that are takers are going to grow. The people who are producers are going to shrink. And eventually, the producers are going to say, I'm done. I'm through with this. I'm either going to become a taker, or I'm going to go somewhere where I can produce without being penalized. And then I will take the option. I will make the choice to be benevolent to people, to be charitable. Because that's ultimately where it goes. For you, those of you who are so-called Christians and you've been voting for the progressive movement, I challenge you to think about this. You don't get points for creating a federal program or a state program that takes over your responsibility. If you feel that if you feel the tug on your heart to help people out, you need to do it. I need to do it individually. The apostles didn't create a program. They didn't go to the Roman government when they saw that they needed to help the widow and the orphan. They individually each made a choice to sell what they had and give. That's it. That's how it works. The best programs that help people out in this world are the nonprofit programs that have gone out, that bend over, hand over fist, that have such a small overhead that most of the money that you give them effectively goes to the people in need. Those are the groups that we need to support. We need to stop all these federal Give Me programs. You're not entitled to anything. We are responsible individually to go out and help people, and that's what we should be doing. But it starts at home. You've got to educate yourself. You've got to educate your kids, because the school systems as they are now, they're destroying this nation, because they kick God out. They kick the tenets of the Judeo-Christian worldview out the door and replace it with a secular humanist religion where the state does it, where the government is a benevolent factor, and that you need to be part of the collective instead of you need to be individually responsible. So that's enough of my soapbox on that. I'm disappointed. We may have to hit rock bottom. We may have to totally be subservient to the state and watch everything collapse around us before this drunken alcoholic realizes that it has to change its ways. So I'm hoping and praying for that, but and I will not stop. I will not stop supporting organizations that that help those in need, no matter how much the government is still taking unjustifiably and unconstitutionally from me. So anyway, last week, just wrapping up here, last week we had, we were talking about some games that were coming out because ScubaBob and I are big into gaming to some extent. I don't do the console thing, but I think he does. We were talking about Halo 4 was coming out, and then also Modern Warfare 3 Special, or Black Ops 2. Or Modern Warfare Black Ops 2 was coming out. Well, of course, Black Ops comes out this week. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't research this well enough, but it turns out that Halo 4 is not coming to the PC. It is only going to be for the consoles, and I cry foul. I was kind of excited because of the way the graphics were looking, the story, the gameplay looked like it was going to be pretty exciting. So I was I thought I was going to put that on my Christmas list. Unfortunately, I won't be because I don't do console gaming. So too bad, so sad. No Halo 4 for me. So I'll be looking to see if Black Ops 2 turns out to be as good as it seems like it's going to. And maybe I'll ask for that to be under the Christmas tree this year. We'll see what happens. Let's hit the trips, training, and tech. Of course, next week we've got DEMA. So, of course, obviously, if you haven't signed up, it's too late now. But for those who are going, wish you well. It's going to be fun. I wish I were able to go this year. We got a lot of stuff going on, so I really couldn't afford to. But so we got that coming up next week. And then, of course, we also have the Del Rio Dive Club meeting at Rudy's Restaurant, November 15th. And again, we're keeping posted out there our Balmorhea State Park trips. So we got 17 through 19 May, 14 through 16 June, 19 through 21 July, 16 through 18 August, which is when our anniversary. Tara and I will be celebrating our next anniversary then. So we'll be, which we did this last year. So that may become a regular thing for us. We'll see. But that's going to be pretty awesome. So that's what we have coming up. And, I kind of want to show off back when I was a wee lad, lived in Ohio. And so I have a number of really good memories from that point when I was growing up. And back in the day, we were big G.I. Joe fans. We had that was back when they were full size, like the Barbie and Ken doll size. And the earliest memory I have of the G.I. Joes were in these boxes, which a couple of years ago, much to my surprise, Walmart had evidently contracted to have the retro G.I. Joes created for a short time. And I mean, and it's amazing. I mean, these are exactly, pictures and all, just like I remembered the G.I. Joes. I mean, they fancy little box with the plastic boots and the little thing. And they had for each of the services. So you had your Marine, you had your Air Force, you had your Navy, and you had, of course, your Army guy. Well, as luck would have it, of course, they had the Navy one, which you saw here, and it came in the dungarees with the sailor cap, the Gilligan hat. For those of you who remember that show, and I thought, man, as I looked at the cover, I thought it would be great to find the scuba diving outfit that they had, because they had all these different outfits and these little packages that had little storylines and a book and all that. Well, and it just so happened that the one I could find was the scuba diving one. So, and this is like the old school scuba diving gear with the regulator was in the back and you had the dual tubes. If you've ever watched Sea Hunt, you know what this is all about. And they got the flippers and the dive knife and everything. That's so cool. But I have this, of course, prominently displayed on my shelf, along with the other three G.I. Joes, the Air Force guy and the Marine and the soldier, the Army guy. But this one is out of the box. The others are in their box, but this one's out of the box because it's a scuba diver. What else? So pretty cool. Love my little a little memorabilia. It just brings back memories. This is before they had the GI Joe, the Kung Fu grip, and the lifelike hair and all that. So, but there's just a little bit of my world, a little bit about me. So, so we're running late as usual, but that's okay. We've got our next episode 42 coming up next week, and I expect to have ScubaBob here with me to fill in his chair, and hopefully he'll be able to share with us a little bit about what his retreat was like. Like I said, I had a surprise for him as part of that his wife was had involved me in surprising him. So hopefully he'll have some interesting things to say about that. But definitely, ScubaBob, miss you, of course, in the podcast, but really, really proud of you for engaging in this retreat. It's well worth it. I'm sure you're finding that out already. Look forward to you next week. So, well, that does it for this week, and hopefully you will join us right here, same bat time, same bat channel, every Saturday at 8 p.m., unless we let you know different because of things coming up. You can always catch us on ustream.tv, as well as afterward we upload the program to YouTube. And so you can check us out on YouTube. Just look for Two Guys Who Dive, and you catch all the previous episodes of our show. We always invite you to join us during the podcast. We do have the chat room open. And so if you have any questions or comments or just otherwise want to participate in the event, we invite you to do so. Or you can always email us. Email me at robert.wade@setifox.net, or you can follow me on Twitter. I will warn you, you'll hear a lot of my political stuff too. But I'm at RobertCFP on Twitter. Or you can visit our webpage at www.delriodiveclub.com, as well as our Facebook page, Facebook.com/Del Rio Dive Club. So without any further ado, I'm Rob Wade, and we will see you next week on another episode of Two Guys Who Dive.